The campaign to ban fracking in Victoria was long and hard fought, and farmers and communities were relieved when the government finally announced a ban on unconventional gas. But just last week, the government announced that they have now opened up large swathes of our coastline to offshore gas drilling, including drilling from onshore. The Labor government is doing this even though we know that climate change is accelerating, our oceans are warming, and the risk of gas exploration to our marine life are huge. Why is your government allowing more gas drilling when we know that to protect us from climate change, we must keep fossil fuels in the ground?
Thank you. You know the difference? I do make the observation that none of the Greens or crossbenchers seem to interject or talk over members of the opposition when they pose questions to ministers. I think the courtesy ought to be extended the other way. Minister, Mr Jennings.
Thank you, President. And I think probably some courtesy should be displayed across the chamber today too. And I've just been made aware through social media of matters where perhaps courtesy was a bit let down today. So my empathy goes out to those who may have actually felt adversely affected by that. And Ms Ratnam may be one of those people.
Yes.
So in this regard, can I actually say to you that the government, the Victorian government, has been, continues to be advocates and champions in the eyes of many in the community in relation to legislating to prevent fracking from occurring in our state. We will stay unswervingly to supporting that position. And indeed, we understand the community's concerns not only about fracking, but in fact what the impact upon research in and potential drilling for conventional gas sources, however rare they may be, onshore. That in fact there is much concern and anxiety across communities right across Victoria in relation to the undesirable consequences of that activity and the impact it may have on the agricultural sector, but very importantly on environmental values and community sense of harmony. So there's a variety of reasons why the government supports our policy settings. At the same time, the government is mindful of pressures that exist within gas supply in terms of its affordability, its impact upon industry, and what has been a concern expressed across this nation about the reliable source of gas that is available for domestic use, for industrial use, and in fact what it might mean for the what it might have impact upon employment, or what it might impact upon adversely on household costs. So the government is not closing our consideration of where available gas supplies may come into the future, as gas continues to be a resource that's used in not only Victoria but across the nation. The question that relates to what is the connection between offshore exploration of quantities of gas that exist within Bass Strait. The government has never it will never resile from Bass Strait fields as actually being available for gas supply across Victoria. The issue that has caused some community concern is the way in which, if gas is found offshore in that location, how is it piped to the mainland and how it connects to the system. And in that context, the government has been alive to actually finding the connection between those offshore gas reserves, if they are found and if they suit the perspective, and the potential for them to be connected to the distribution network of the gas system in Victoria. It is not a desertion of the policy settings that the Government of Victoria has had. In fact, it is consistent with the policy settings that we have not deserted, but we are trying to acquit the expectations of all sections of our community in relation to keeping the environmental and climate change agenda and our commitment to fracking unequivocally being maintained, at the same time for allowing for this prospective exploration of new gas sites offshore.
Yeah. Good one.
Ms Ratnam on a supplementary question.
The Minister for his sentiments regarding what happened earlier today, as well as his answer to that question. As a follow-up, as well as opening up half our coastline for gas drilling, the Labor government have not told Victorians whether they will allow onshore gas drilling when the moratorium expires in less than 2 years. Will the government make the moratorium on onshore gas drilling permanent, or can Victorians expect to see their farmland and environment opened up for conventional gas drilling if Labor is re-elected in November?
Minister, Mr Jennings.
President, I actually thought that I had pretty much provided the frame and the considerations, not only of our legislative commitments, but the activities that the government is currently entertaining. We are not talking about the circumstance that she's described in her supplementary question, and I would not preempt any further considerations that are made beyond the policy announcement the government has already made and I've reiterated today.
Ms Pringle.